In this tutorial, I'll show you how to run a WordPress and deploy Docker images using CapRover on a single server. Clean dashboard, custom domains, and free SSL. We will start from a fresh server and build the whole setup together. Not only that, but I will also teach you how to run any Docker image in that server, so you can deploy more complex projects and use cases. Alright, let's create the server. In the AWS console, search for EC2 and then click Launch Instance. First, let's give it a name. For this one, I will call it just CapRover Hosting Server, but you can name it whatever you want. For the operating system, we need Ubuntu. And let's keep the LTS version selected. And make sure it says 64-bit and x86 here. I'm choosing x86, not ARM, because almost all Docker images work on x86. ARM is cheaper, yes, but some images do not support it yet. For most people, x86 is the safer choice, so let's stick with it. Now to the instance type, this defines your CPU and RAM. If you're just testing, T3 Micro is fine. It is 1 CPU and 1 GB of RAM, and it's a free tier eligible. So we can stick with it. But for really client projects, I recommend at least T3 small or T3A small. That gives you 2 CPUs and 2 GB of RAM, enough for several small websites. I'll go with T3 small for now. Next to the key pair, you need this to connect to your server later using SSH. If you already have one, select it. If not, we can create a new one. We can keep RSA selected, and for the format, if you are on Mac or Linux, choose PEM. If you're on Windows and using PuTTY, for example, choose .ppk. I'll just keep it as it is. It's downloaded. Now to the network settings. This is very important. Let's click Edit to configure the security group. In order to CapRover to work perfectly, we need to open some ports. Port 22 is already there, that's for SSH. You can leave it open to everyone or restrict it to your IP for better security. I'll just keep it for now. Now let's add more rules. Click on Add Security Group rule. For the type, choose HTTP. This opens the port 80. And let's set the source to anywhere, so anyone can access our website. Add another rule. This time let's choose HTTPS. This opens port 443. Again, source is anywhere. This will allow anyone to access our website from HTTPS. And finally, one more rule, and let's click Add again. This time, choose Custom TCP. For the port, type 3000. This is for CapRover setup page. We need it open during installation, and then we can close it afterwards. For the source, anywhere is fine for now, given we will close it at the end. So we have SSH on port 22, HTTP on port 80, HTTPS on port 443, and the custom TCP on port 3000 for CapRover. That's everything CapRover needs to operate. The last thing, storage. The default is 8 GB, that's not enough. Change it to at least 40, for example. Or 30, because it is free tier eligible. Let's keep it 30. 30 GB gives you room for several websites, databases, and even backups. Keep GP3 selected. It's the newer and faster storage type, so let's not touch it for now. That's all the settings we need. Let's launch it. Click on the instance ID to see the server. And here we go. Keep in mind the public IP because we will need it to either access our server or we can link it to some domain that we own. Now let's connect to our server and set everything up. Docker and CapRover. AWS lets you connect directly from the browser, so no terminal setup needed. Click Connect. And now we're in. This is just a terminal that is running in your browser. AWS handles all the connection stuff for you. First thing, let's update the server. This checks for update and installs them. Let's speed it up because it might take some time. And we're done. The server is up to date. Now to the next step, which is installing Docker. Docker has an official installed script that does everything for us in just one command. Let's use it. This downloads Docker's official installed script and runs it. That's it. I will also speed it up because it might take some time. And now installation is complete. Let's verify it works. Let's type just Docker. Great. You can see Docker is installed and ready. Now the fun part. Let's start CapRover. CapRover runs as a Docker container. One command and it's all installed. Let us find the installation command in CapRover official documentation and then we just copy and paste it and we're good to go. For the first part, we are telling Docker to run a container and open ports 80.443 and port 3000. And the variable accepted terms equals true is just to accept the CapRover terms of service. And this gives CapRover access to Docker, so it can create and manage other containers. And this volume is where CapRover saves its data. And finally, the image name, which is CapRover. And that's it, it's done, and CapRover is installed. Now let's connect our domain to the server we have just created. And the clever part is we are going to create a wild DNS record, which means any subdomain we create later will automatically point to our server. My domain is in AWS Route 53, so let's do it there. But it's the same in any DNS provider. Let's go to hosted zones. And you will see your domains here. Click on the one you want to use. I have this domain that I don't use anymore, so let's add our wildcard record in it. Create a new record. We set up this once, and we never touch the DNS again for any new project. For the record name, let's just type the wildcard symbol, which is just the star. Record type should be A, that's the default one here. A record just points a domain to an IP address. So for each client, you can have a specific subdomain. So client1.yourdomain, client2.yourdomain, etc. For the value, let's go and grab the public IP address we talked about earlier and paste it here. TTL, you can leave it as it is. And this is the time in seconds in which the DNS changes takes to propagate across the internet or spread across the internet. And that's it. Let's create the record. So the record is created. Let's also add a record for the root domain itself without any wildcard. This will be our website. Let's create another record. This time, let's leave the record name empty. Let's create a record for our main domain. So whenever we go to our domain name, it will go to our server directly. We keep the record type as A, same as before. For the value, we need the same EC2 IP address again. And let's create the record. Now we have two records. The wildcard covers all subdomains, and the blank one covers the root domain. Now let's make sure it works. Let's type any subdomain. So the subdomain is pointing to our server now. If you see an error, don't worry, DNS takes a few minutes to update, give it like 5 to 10 minutes and try again. Now let's set up CapRover. The default login password can be found in the documentation page and it is Captain42. And here it is. That's the default password for every new CapRover installation and we will change it in a second. And let's log in. And here is the dashboard. First thing, we need to tell CapRover our domain name. And done. Now CapRover knows about our domain. Now let us enable the HTTPS so everything is secure with a green lock. We will need to enter an email address. This is for Let's Encrypt to provide us with a free SSL certificate. This email is used to notify you if certificate is about to expire, but CapRover renews them automatically, so you probably won't get any emails. Requesting a certificate from Let's Encrypt takes a few seconds. And done, HTTPS is enabled. And now let's change the default password. That is very important because everyone can know the default password from the documentation and they can grant access to our dashboard. Use a strong password and memorize it or store it or use a password manager application. This is very important for the future projects. And change password. Good, password is changed and now we're safe. Let me quickly show you around. Apps. This is where you will create and manage your applications. WordPress, Laravel, Node, everything goes here. One-click apps are pre-configured apps you can install in seconds. For example, databases, CMSs, platforms, and many other things. Before we deploy any application, we need a database. So let's search for database. You see here it supports many types of databases. For example, MySQL, which is the one that we will use with our WordPress. Also, there is Postgres and Redis and so on. Let's go and pick MySQL. Now we configure our database. First, the name of the app, and this is how CapRover will identify our database or the application itself. I'll just call it MainDB. For MySQL version, let's keep the default. We have to pick some sort of a strong password, but for now I'll just type this. And now it's deploying our MySQL into our CapRover server. So it will create a Docker container and it will attach a persisted volume to it and so on. And congratulations, our first application is deployed. MySQL is running, but it's empty. We need to create a database and a user for WordPress. Let's install another one-click app, which is phpMyAdmin, a visual tool to manage databases. Search for phpMyAdmin. Click on it. For app name, let's call it phpMyAdmin. Let's keep the defaults as they are and deploy. It takes a couple seconds. And then we go to our phpMyAdmin application and we enable HTTPS for secure connection. And then we click on the publicly available application URL. Let's first grab our MySQL host. Let's grab the password from MainDB config. Username we use root and let's log in. So let's type a new database and we give it a name. Let's just call it wp_db. Now database is created. And let's go to privileges to create our user. For simplicity, I'll just call it WP underscore user, and for the password, WP underscore user underscore password. Usually you have to type a strong password, or you can just generate one and scroll down and click on go to create the user. So now we have a database called WP underscore DB and a user called WP underscore user. So now we are ready to deploy our first WordPress on CapRover. Now the part clients actually care about. Let's deploy a WordPress application. So we navigate to apps, then click on one-click apps and search for WordPress. You can notice that we have two WordPress applications in one-click apps. WordPress with no database and WordPress. The WordPress application on the right, it doesn't need our previous step, which is creating the database, because it creates its own database with its own persisted volume. So we could just create a WordPress, the one on the right, which will spin up a database server for us. But usually, you do not create a database server for each client. For now, let's use the one with no database and connect it to our shared MySQL server. First, the app name. And as you know now, this becomes our subdomain. But we will add a custom domain for this later. For real clients, you better call them with the client name. The database host is the internal address of our MySQL server application, so let's paste it here. For the database, we use WP underscore DB. For the user, we use WP underscore user, and for the password, we use WP underscore user underscore password. These are the same ones we have created in phpMyAdmin in the previous step. Let's deploy. Now it's pulling the WordPress image and starting the container. And WordPress is deployed. Let's navigate into our new app and make sure we are in HTTP settings. And in HTTP settings, let's first enable HTTPS. This will take a couple of seconds because SSL certificate is being requested from Let's Encrypt. Now let's give it a proper domain name. I will use the root domain that we linked earlier to our CapRover server. Let's click Connect New Domain. Let's see it. Click on our newly added domain name, and there it is, the WordPress installation wizard. I think the idea is clear now, but I will continue the installation anyway. Let's choose a language, title, whatever, username, and done. Let's click login, username, password, and we are in the WordPress dashboard. Let's see the front-end website. And there it is, a live WordPress website, a custom domain, HTTPS, all running in our CapRover server. If you got another client, just follow the same process. Create a new database in phpMyAdmin, then deploy a WordPress, attach a domain. All takes like 1 to 2 minutes. And here's where CapRover gets really powerful. We are not limited to WordPress or one-click apps. You can run Laravel, Node.js, React, Python, anything that runs in Docker. And let me show you how. And in this extra section, I will show you how to deploy Docker image in CapRover. For this section, I will deploy a Monica application, which is a personal relationship manager. Monica is just a Laravel application. So let's go and see what are the environment variables needed there. Let's copy them and create a new app. Let's call it just Monica. Create, and here you go. So let's go into the app we have just created and navigate to deployments. And here, let's just type the image name. And now it is creating the containers based on that image. Now let's configure the environment variables we have just copied. So go to app configs and use bulk edit and paste all of them. Let's fix the format. Let's remove the extra spaces. because environment variables here expect a key and a value only. And for the key, let's generate one using the hint that they put here. Let's copy and paste it there. So we have DB host, DB username, DB password. We will change all of these later. Let's add the DB database. For this demo, I'll just use the root username, and let's save and restart. We will fix the environment variables in a minute. Let's grab the main database host. And let's go to apps. And let's go to the Monica app and add the host there. And use the root user and the root password. And let's save and restart the application. Now, if you go to logs, you will see that the database has spinned up and it ran the migrations. Now let's enable HTTPS as usual. And let's access the application. If you get this error here, don't worry, it needs a couple of seconds to finish up the application. So let's refresh, and here you go. Let's create an account and try the application. So that's it. This is the end of our tutorial. You can run anything on CapRover. WordPress for clients, Laravel for backends, Node.js for APIs, for example, React for front ends, all on one server, all with custom domains and HTTPS. Thank you for watching.